it won't tear well the other way. And we tear them in strips. And a large paper-mache object, you could actually paper-mache in strips and cross-hatch them together. But we're working on very tiny things. So I'm going to be making patches this size. That's actually too big of a size. These little patches work better on tinier objects. So we always get our patches prepared so we don't have to tear anything with hands that are not dry. So I have all the children prepare the patches, and we have piles on the table next to the paper-mache. On this particular project, we're making calakas, which are supposed to be skeletons, and we wanted a black surface to paint white paint on, which is what Ashley's working on here. The smaller patches adapt better to the different stances and way the actual kalaka is going to be standing, or their position. I like little strips, and every artist gets a better feel for what they need on their particular kalaka. When you get inside on a recessed or concave curve, you need real tiny ones to fit in really well. On the outside edges, where it's convex, it's not as critical. And this is where we put our patches, and we have a huge amount torn. So one day we'll just be tearing patches, then the next day we'll be just getting really goopy and messy. But you don't want to ever have the dry stuff get around your wet goopies, because that'll be a big mess. So you have a tearing area in your room, or you do it at a different time. And you can tear a lot of patches at once if you hold the strips together. I try to even separate them there too, because sometimes they stick together. And since we've already gone past a lot of the projects with the newspaper stage, I'm going to help Ashley tear some black patches now. I'm sure people have seen the reindeer that are done with the paper sacks from the grocery store. It's the same thing. They wanted a brown surface, so they used that. This is wheat paste. It used to be used to put up wallpaper. You could buy it at hardware stores. Now you cannot buy it at hardware stores in such big quantity, so you have to go to an art store to buy this. We will show you how to make your homemade wheat paste for paper-mache with flour, water, and white glue. But the thing you need to know about wheat paste is that you add the dry to the wet, which was totally against most people's ways of thinking. Dry to wet. And it looks really goopy. And you do small amounts, mix it in before you add the next batch of dry. I have very, very cold water, and the lumps will become dissolved. If you use more the next day, this will become very watery no matter how thick it is. And sometimes you had to have more wheat paste the next day. But it's already starting to get thick, and I only put a handful and a half in it. And it does stay pretty well with a Tupperware lid with a lid overnight. And even if it smells bad, it still works. I tell the kids that all the time. I'm going to add another handful. It's already getting pretty thick. And you want I tell the kids the consistency of like mustard, thick mustard. It's already there. It really gets thick. It's already at a good consistency. I could make it a lot thicker, but it doesn't spread on as well. And it mixes up that fast. It mixes up faster with warm water, of course, and this is very icy cold from the tap. And when I start the kids off, I tell the one that mixes it up with me at the table to use that hand as the one to, you have to put a lot of the paper-mache on your surface, your figure, or whatever you're paper-macheing, and get it very wet and goopy. And then you can hold one hand dry and then put the paper-mache paper on. Ashley, will you show them how to do that? And then click.
Wouldn't hurt.
I'm applying the paper-mache and the dry paper strips or little patches. You have to have the surface of your object of art already wet with goop. Keeping this hand dry so I can hold, I'll work on one area, let it dry and work on another area. So I can pretty much probably paper-mache a lot on the top. He's got some wet, or not some wet, he's got some rough surfaces that I'm trying to smooth out for him. Again, we're going to paint bones on them with white house paint, so it doesn't really make that much difference. Now this is a very large patch. I'm going to have to apply this probably to an area that's wide so I can smooth it down without wrinkles. Now if it's a surface that needs to be very smooth, you have to be a lot more careful than we're being. Since this is folk art, we're not that concerned about that. Ashley's paper-mache has gotten very thick. It still works, but it can, you know, we can add a little more water and loosen it up now. But that's the second day. Mm-hmm. Mine's still very loose. And again, I'm applying it, making it very, very soft so I can smooth the patches on it.